both my brothers are exceptional students, went and got, masters and, and I was a C student who dropped out of college to be a rapper with Skin. And
Is that true?
That's true.
You really did that?
We did that. We were, so at some point along the way in high school, we started getting really into rap music, like Beastie Boys.
Right.
We thought that was the coolest thing ever. And so we started rapping. And we had a friend of ours, his name was Ty Taunton, and he was a great beatboxer.
Right.
It didn't make any sense why he would be we were just white kids in the suburbs, but he was great at beatboxing. So we would freestyle rap and write raps as just being idiots, just having fun. We didn't take ourselves seriously. We were just clowns. And we would rap, and we got pretty good at it there for a while. And so when school got too hard, we were like, what if we were rappers? Let's drop it. Skin was at UT. I was at Texas Tech. What if we dropped out of college to be rappers? I love this line from Skin. He's like, later we found out you didn't have to drop out of college to do that. You could have just kept trying to do that.
Right.
But we took a shot. We actually took a shot. We spent a couple years doing it, and we tried to start a record label. And we did get some interest from some record labels, and we opened up for some big shows. And I'll tell you that this is the Lord working in mysterious ways, because to be a rapper, I thought that was my end goal. I was like, man, I can't do school. I'm not a sharp business person. I don't really have anything going for me, but I really am passionate about making music. So an interesting thing happened with it was freestyle rap. And that was the idea. You could go to the studio, write down lyrics and record songs, but to be a really good MC, you need to be able to freestyle.
Right.
So I'd rap about that cup or my phone or your shirt or your headphones or that picture. And so I got really good at that,
right?
Like insanely good at that, because I was practicing all day, every day. I got really, 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 really good. And when our music dream crashed and burned and we finally were like, hey, this isn't going to work, we need to get serious about life, I was devastated, because I thought that was my identity. I thought making it music was who I was, my identity, and I'm a failure.
Wow.
And we ended up getting these really bad jobs. We were delivering business cards. We had to wake up at 4, go cut business cards, and then go deliver them all around town, delivery routes. And the station, Sports Radio 13, the ticket started in 93 or something like that. And I could have the year wrong. I was driving a Volkswagen Jetta that had no car stereo because it was stolen at the state fair. I'd borrowed my mom's jam box that was missing an antenna, so I had a coat hanger in the antenna, and it was riding shotgun with me on the delivery route. And I started listening to the ticket, and I was like, oh, these guys aren't like just sports guys. These are like musicians, and they've been in bands, and they're fun and funny, and they're doing a fake Jerry Jones, and we could do this. And so essentially, the way that I think God works when there's a plan for you that you don't have any control of, I thought that rap was my identity. By practicing freestyle rapping all the time, all day, every day, making things rhyme is difficult. When it comes down to talking in a microphone and not making it rhyme, just collecting your thoughts and being able to verbalize those things, I was really good at that. And so I was practicing that, but it wasn't for the role that I thought. It was for a role that maybe somebody else had. I don't know, somebody else had in mind. So when we got on the radio, doing radio was no problem. It was a lot easier than making it rhyme.
That's awesome. What a great story. Do you ever feel like your life is a series of just awesome story after awesome story? Because that's all good stuff, man. I mean, that's like living crazy. That's amazing.
There's the highlights are fun. The reality is that it is a grind to chase any dream. It's a long shot, and you are not guaranteed anything. And there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and things that go in behind the scenes that nobody ever sees. And it's been difficult. It's been really, really hard. The highlights, man, they're a lot of fun to look back on and think about. But there are these, people always say it's not the destination, it's the journey. And I never believed that early on. But as I get older, I'm like, they were right.
It is that, right?
It's the journey, right?
100% that. Yeah, that's such good stuff. So at some point in there, you met someone and you got married. Yeah. Talk to me.
So when I met my wife, Kat, I was an unemployed rapper.
Unemployed rapper.
She was, and I took my love of sports, but inability to make it work in any substantial place. I turned that into softball. I love softball.
Right.
Played a lot of softball, and we created some really competitive softball teams. And so one day our softball team was at this bar on Greenville after we had played, and I thought our waitress was gorgeous. But I don't have any game. I've never been able to talk to women. I don't know what they're thinking. I mean, I'm clumsy and whatever. And so I was like, I got to get the courage to talk to her. And she was outgoing and beautiful and fun. And she was like, so you guys just had softball game? We're like, yeah. She goes, do you have a co-ed team? And I was like, oh, yeah. We didn't. I was like, oh, yeah.
we do now.
We're starting one. Can I get your phone number? And I'll call you about the... And so she ended up giving me her phone number. And so she had just moved here from Oklahoma City with her best friend, and they were waitresses, and they were trying to get established. So they didn't know anybody in town. And so we became friends, and she was dating my friend for a while. And, we were just friends, never really thought of anything else. And then at some point, something just clicked, and she was my best friend. And graduated high school in 89, college in 99. I did go back to college. I didn't want to get married until I had my stuff together a little bit, until I knew what my future was going to be, until I could provide for a family. And so we dated for 10 years.
Wow.
And I'm so grateful that she stuck around. And now we've been married for, I think, 22 years. So we've been together. I've been with the same amazing human being for 32 years. Her name is Kat. She's the most even-keeled, level-headed, smartest, most awesome person ever, which is great for me. I'm like a bipolar roller coaster, and she's even-keeled. And she was a yoga instructor, and I was a cheeseburger constructor. And so, it kind of rhymes and it goes together. But we're blessed. We have 3 kids. Max is 19, Miles is 17, and Grace is 14. Max went off to school at Alabama. He got a full academic scholarship, and we couldn't be more proud of all 3 of them. But Kat is everything to me. There's this comedian, Nate Bargatze. Have you heard of him? He's hilarious. I love him. And we were driving to Broken Bow recently. We were listening to his stand-up comedy, and Kat goes, his marriage is like us. And I was like, you are so right. Because what he was saying, he goes, my wife's in charge of everything. If she was to die, I would have to go around to different banks and go, is my money here? He goes, I don't even know what bank we use. I would have to go to her parents and go, did she ever mention anything about a bank? She is in charge of our household.
Right.
And so we've been together for a long time, and she's an amazing mom.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. What a great, that's like a really amazing part of your life. And we're going to talk a little bit more about your faith and stuff like that too. But at some point you guys decided to make the move to Celina, Texas. Mm-hmm. What in the world motivated you guys to move to Celina? So
we were living over by J.J. Pierce High School, and they have some really good schools over there, and particularly this great elementary school, and then a pretty good middle school, and then a pretty good high school. And all of a sudden the neighborhood started getting hot. In other words, houses were selling. We were like, what? It sold for how much? And I had never made money on a house ever. And I hadn't owned a lot of houses, but my older brother, every time he sold a house, he cleaned up. I was like, how are you doing that? How great. They paid you to live there. It seemed like a great philosophy. And so I was like, maybe one day we'll make money on a house. And so my dad had passed away in 2005. He got pancreatic cancer. He died 28 days after diagnosis.
I'm sorry.
It was brutal. Oh, yeah. Thank you. It's been a long time, but it's that one. My mom ended up passing away from cancer as well. She battled for 5 years. He battled for 28 days. I don't know which was better, honestly. There's pros and cons. Do you want it to be short? Do you want it to be prolonged? I'm grateful for every bit of extra time we had with her. But so at the time we had my mom living over there by us. And so I was reluctant to move anywhere, but I was going to try to convince her to move with us when we moved, not in a house, but buy a house near us. And so houses started going for so much over there that people were putting notes in mailboxes saying, if you ever sell your house, let us know. And so I was like, let's do it. Let's put our house up and just see what we can get. And so we got this realtor, and they were like, put it for sale for this amount. And Kat goes, I don't think that's enough. Let's make it another 50 grand. And so Kat was like, so I was like, all right, let's do it. And we the day before it went on the market, we sold it on Facebook. Just by posting about it on Facebook, somebody was moving here from Atlanta and they bought it over asking price before it ever went on the market. And we were like, what? And so we did well in a house for the first time.
Right.
But now we were free agents and we didn't know where we hadn't spent much time thinking about where we were going to go because we didn't know how selling it was going to go. We thought it's possible. We don't sell it. And so we were free agents and we could look anywhere. We looked, we had heard so many great things about places in Fort Worth. My whole life has been in North Dallas. And so we're like, where could we go? And I had a couple friends that lived in Prosper. And one of them is my buddy Mike Pettis, who owns the Gin, and a dear friend. And they were like, there's this new neighborhood in Celina called Light Farms. And I think it's going to be really special. It's going to be a master planned community. And I was like, okay, wow. So that's even north of Prosper. And they're like, yeah, but it's right on that edge. And I was like, okay, well, where is that? Like I would come out there to see them in Prosper, and I was always like, golly, you guys live so far out here.
Yeah, seems like forever.
Because for me,
way up here.
Yeah, and there's people that live in Dallas that are like, man, north of 635, that's far. I'm like, wait, what? That's not far.
Right.
And so we started looking around, and I fell in love with this area, fell in love with it. And for a couple reasons, but, the further you live closer to a big city, the less personal interaction there is with your neighbors and the less of a community feel that you have. And, when I came up here, it was like I saw Halloween one weekend and I was like, oh my gosh, they hired all these child actors to impress us and make us want to move out here. Look at this. There's so many kids out here. This is paradise if you're raising a family. And I'm like, I come down to, the square here, and I'm walking around the square in downtown Celina, and I'm like, what? This is like out of a Norman Rockwell painting, or this is real American heritage. This is small town. You walk around and, there's country music playing, or there's people that are like, hi, and they're friendly, and they don't know you, and they're nice to you. And I was like, that is awesome. Like it had everything that we wanted in that. It was new. We love the idea of moving into a new house that we got to design. It was off the beaten path a little bit. It was a little bit further north, but we were like, once the tollway's in, because I knew I was going to continue working in Dallas. It's just adding a little bit to your commute, but look what you get. This is a special place. And so we absolutely fell in love. We were going and looking at all these different neighborhoods. And when we came to Light Farms, our kids didn't resent us. They had a blast. For them, they thought it was like when we went on vacation a little bit.
Right.
Because there was kids everywhere. They were like, I'm going to this barnyard area to go play and da-da-da, and I'm doing this. And we were like, this is answering the question for us. Like, this is where we were meant to be. It just felt like that's where we were supposed to be. So we moved to Celina. I'm terrible with these things, but I think it was
hold on. I can text your wife and we'll find out.
You're exactly right. I think it was 8 or 9 years ago that we moved to Celina, and it's one of the greatest things, if not the best thing that's ever happened for our family.
That's awesome.
And then, sorry to interrupt you, Ron, but then my younger brother moved to our neighborhood.
Nice.
And my mom moved to our neighborhood.
Very, very good. So you're all in on Celina.
Yeah.
And you still love it today just as much as then, if not maybe more.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And one of the things that you run into when you move out to a small town that is blossoming and has the potential to be a big town is, and I didn't know this. I've learned this, but one day I was talking to some people and they were like, they were talking about in Prosper. They were like, yeah, there's going to be a Starbucks. And I was like, yes. And right when I said yes, like 3 other people were like, no. I'm like, oh, that's bad. And I'm like, okay. And so I get it. Like if you find this paradise, you're like, hey, I don't want anyone else to know about this. I want it to stay exactly like it is. And I absolutely understand that and see that value. But I also like things that are new, and I like the idea of building something from scratch and doing it the right way. Like, can you blossom and build something extraordinary and still maintain the pureness of what a small town really is? And I think it's possible. I think you can do it. Like, I go to downtown McKinney and I'm like, this is a huge city, but this is an awesome square. This is really cool. I really like that. And I think this can be the same.
So it is an experiment unfolding literally as you and I do our daily lives here. We see and we have models to look at, like Frisco, for example. And the growth is just like moved north, right? So Frisco had Plano to look at, and then Prosper kind of, Frisco. And now we're kind of looking at all of the cities to our south. And I know you don't like all the politics and stuff, so we won't get a whole lot into politics, but there is a fair amount of contention right now, specifically with what you were talking about. You get here, you find a city, you love that, and so many people do the exact same thing, which means a lot of growth.
Right.
A whole lot of growth. And so, you have people who say, I love it because, and maybe one of the reasons is you can drive down Preston Road and you see cattle out there. And then you realize that's not forever. Pretty soon that's going to be a Costco or another development or whatever. So what, in your opinion, to me, it's like, and I'll just say this, we hold on to our downtown. We keep that small town. There's our anchor to who we've always been. And I've been here for 31 or 2 years now. And that holds us, kind of to who we've always been, but we allow the growth and we manage it. What do you say about that?
Yeah, I don't get political, and not to fence ride, but I have love and compassion for any way anyone looks at this. I can understand both perspectives. That's okay to understand all the perspectives. And I'm not qualified to know what is best and what is not best when it comes to building.
You're not running for mayor anytime soon.
I'm not. I would never want to be in politics just because, again, I want to unify people. I want to bring people together. I don't like that nastiness.
Absolutely.
And I have friends on both sides, and I have friends who I love that we can disagree on things, but at the end of the day, we're still friends.
Right.
That's what it should be. It's okay to have a healthy debate, but I don't like the nastiness. But what I would tell you is this. So I've learned so much about small business in the past 5 years, things that I did not know. I've always worked for giant companies, chasing this radio dream. These companies are huge and they're all across the country. And when we opened Rollertown, it was, first of all, the day that we opened was the day that the pandemic closed the state. So our grand opening literally was that day. And since we didn't serve food, we couldn't even let anyone in our doors. And from the day we launched, it has been such a hard thing. It's incredibly challenging. And so now I have so much understanding of how difficult small business is, that you like when you're a small town, you like having these great places you can go, these special places. Hey, look, I'm going to go to this restaurant, and it's not some huge chain. It's not an Applebee's. There's only one. And there's the owner right there greeting me when I walk in. That's really special. But without growth, it's hard for those businesses to survive. That's just the reality. With Rollertown, where we're located, nobody has ever just walked by and go, oh, look, a brewery, let's go in. It takes a lot of marketing, and I'm grateful that we've pulled people from all over Dallas-Fort Worth to come to Celina and see us at Rollertown. But it's one of those things where I get it. People like the quaintness, they like the smallness, they want it to be a best kept secret. But if you also want your businesses to thrive, you need volume, you need people. And so if there aren't constantly people moving into this area and supporting these small businesses, the likelihood is that these small businesses will die. They'll go out of business. And so it's trying to figure that out. I get it. Smarter people than me are trying to do that, and I'm grateful that they are, because I don't know the recipe. But you need the growth to sustain the business, and you need the tax revenue to be able to give businesses incentives to come here. And so you start with the infrastructure things, big grocery stores and things like that. And that allows you to build it out. But I think it's possible. I think it's so possible. I think you're right. I think you use the downtown square, which is so special, so nostalgic, so magical, you use that to be your footprint to keep your small town identity while you grow up, and you never lose those values.
And so you guys, you and Kat, at some point, you're like, hey, let's do a brewery. Get some other people involved. Talk to me about that. What in the heck made you decide to do Rollertown?
Yeah, so while we're on the radio, it's not lost on us that we're working for a giant corporation, and we endorse products on our radio show. And like, for instance, one of the things I was endorsing was my community, Light Farms. And so I had a bunch of listeners move to Light Farms, which was really cool.
Nice.
One of the things we were endorsing along the way was Balcones Whiskey, which is out of Waco, Texas. And my brother was the CMO. I told you both my brothers are very successful. My brother was running their marketing, and we were endorsing them in Dallas-Fort Worth on the Ben and Skin show. And their sales in Dallas-Fort Worth were skyrocketing compared to other markets where we weren't endorsing them. And that was a fun experiment to get to see under the hood, to see those numbers, to see, wow, we're having a huge impact on this brand. And I started meeting with a guy who's a mentor of mine, and was meeting with him trying to figure out how can Skin and I do something that is our own outside of working for the man. Because I see the way this is going to end. At some point, we're just going to get laid off, and then we're not going to have anything to fall back on.
Right.
And we're really good at building brands and growing businesses. So why couldn't we have one of our own? And so we just knew we were going to have one shot. We couldn't have a pizza joint one day, a bar the next day, dry cleaners. Like, our listeners, we knew that, we have a loyal listenership, but we needed one thing. So we were just kind of looking for the right idea. And I was at my son's youth baseball game. My boys were playing select baseball up here. And I was just talking to one of the dads I really liked. And we were talking while we were watching a baseball game. And he said, we just bought a building in Celina that is really cool. It's an old building, and it's rustic, and we think it's really special. And he was just talking shop and talking business. And I was like, oh, what are you going to do with it? He goes, I don't know. Maybe a gun range, maybe a brewery. He goes, I don't know. And I was like, brewery. And I said, brewery, really? Because right around that time, Skin and I were doing this on the radio. So Skin loves craft beer, loves it. And he would go around to different breweries in Dallas and Fort Worth, and he would post about it on social media. Hey, my wife and I are going to this brewery this Saturday. And people were like, can I go? And all of a sudden people were dying just to go drink beer with Skin at breweries. And so we started doing this segment on our show called the Brew Crew Tour, where we would talk about breweries and let them promote their businesses, because breweries are not highly profitable. It's a very difficult business, and so they can't afford to advertise. So here we were using our platform to help these local businesses. Let's advertise. Our listeners love beer. It's not hurting our content to talk about beer. And so at that time, you could see a lot of parallel synergy between our listenership and drinking, whether it's whiskey or beer, craft beer, whatever it may be. We're like, man, our listeners dig this. Skin always says our listeners love chicken, alcohol, and gambling. Those are the things we know. We know our listeners. We know our listener loves.
You know your demographic, right. And you know what they like. That's awesome.
We endorsed Pluckers, which is a great wing restaurant, and we've always endorsed a casino. But I was like, do you? Would I asked this dad at this baseball game? You said brewery. What if I put together a business plan? Would you entertain that? And he goes, sure. We don't know what we're going to do. I'm happy to look at anything. And I was like, yes. So I called Skin. I was like, dude, what do you think about a brewery? He's like, I'm in.